Hello, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Your voice is breaking from Krithi.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. Good morning. Are you able to hear me?
Hello.
Yeah, hi. I can hear you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Great. Just let me know. If the voice is not very clear, I'll try to use a headphone rather.
No, sir, your voice is very clearly audible. I will check with the Prakriti madam. I think her mic has some problems.
Okay, no worries.
Ma'am, am I audible right now? Clearly audible?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So shall we start?
Yes, if you say so.
Thank you, sir. A pleasant good morning to all. I, Prakriti Diwan, welcome you all on third day of fourth stage of STTP 2021. Today we have Mr. Biswas, Mr. AvdeshThassu, and Mr. Anugrah Kastwar as our guest speaker. So let's start the session with our first speaker, Mr. Biswas. Mr. Biswas is an expert global trial manager of global drug development for Novartis. He has 12 years of experience in leading and managing global clinical trial in indication of diabetes, obesity, hemophilia, growth hormone, and cardiovascular studies. He serves as Senior Officer Clinical Research in Microlab Limited, Clinical Research Manager in Novo Nordisk, and Expert Global Trial Manager in Novartis. He has done his B Pharm from University of North Bengal in 2001 to 2005, M Pharm in Pharmacology from Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Science in 2005 to 2009. With this word, may I request sir to start with his deliberation?
Yeah, thank you so much for the nice introduction, Prakriti. And I'm actually very excited to be here. Thanks for providing the opportunity. Like whatever I little bit of knowledge about clinical trial, I'll try to share. I know the time of 1 hour might not be, sufficient enough to go through a lot of in detail, but I'll have an overview and let's see. And please feel free to ask questions or interrupt me during the presentation. Okay, so I don't know. So I guess when I put into presentation mode, I can't see the participants, right? Prakriti?
Yes, sir. There are 12 participants.
Okay. No, just help me out. I don't know. I'm not used to Google Meet. So let me know if there's any question. Is there any option to raise hand here?
Okay.
Or
Okay.
maybe, yeah.
Sir, there is in right side 3 dots. Click that. Kindly click that, and start your PPT
Right. I'll do that.
and click the entire window. Entire window option. Click.
Okay. Let me know when you can see the slides.
Yes, sir. Yeah, your slides are visible.
Perfectly fine. So anyway, before I start, as I said, it will be a very high-level overview, and whatever like I just gathered information that what might be relevant for the faculty members who are attending the session. So I tried to construct in that way. And I don't know about the background of your understanding about clinical trial, but if anyone wants to share whether they have some bit of understanding what clinical trials are, if anyone wants to share. If not, I can definitely jump into the topic right away. Okay, so I'll start with a disclaimer, what we usually have to show it before we do a presentation to an external audience. So as Prakriti mentioned, I work for Novartis in the global drug development team, and I take care of global studies. So when we say global studies, these are basically clinical trials which are conducted in various countries. Not only in India, India can be one of the participating countries. So some trials might have around, you can say 40, 50 countries participating in the trial. So those are large global studies and usually conducted as a part of the clinical development in phase 2 and phase 3. Okay, also phase 4, I'll talk about that later on. So the disclaimer, I'm not going to read and bore you out. So this is just to flash it that the views are my own. And the information, whatever I'm going to present today, are taken from public domain. So these are not Novartis slides, and these are for educational purposes only. And if you need it further to present to your students, I will be more than happy to distribute it further. Just let me know. And yeah, so this is the agenda which I will try to cover very briefly, touching upon the history of clinical trials, a bit of drug development process. And as the topic is mostly revolving around how India is perceived in the clinical trial industry, we'll talk about the guidances and regulations in India specifically and the career opportunities. Okay, so let me start with the story first. And I assume that all of you like stories, right? If I'm not wrong. And you might have, some of you might have kids and you might have to tell a lot of stories to them. So anyways, I'll start with a story which is like kind of comes from Bible. So you can understand this like something 500 BC, like as old as that. So this is a small story. I'll start with that and maybe we'll slowly get into the topic. Okay. So the story is all about the king of Babylon. His name was Nebuchadnezzar. Okay. And he conquered Jerusalem in that 500 and let's see, it's 562 BC. So he conquered Jerusalem, and he basically looted all the gold, diamonds from Jerusalem. It was a rich country at that point of time, and then he came back, obviously, to his home country, which was Babylon. So the story is all about the king's court and Daniel. So Daniel was one amongst the captives, or you can say the prisoner, who was taken to taken to Babylon along with the king. So the story around that, I tried to gather some cartoons. I don't know. I felt it would be good to even represent through cartoons because we all have seen or read cartoons sometime in our childhood. So, as I said, it's basically a kind of war when Babylon attacked Jerusalem, okay, and the king Nebuchadnezzar, who was the king at that point of time. Okay, so what happened that the king has told his chief of staff, you can see the man with the white beard is the chief of staff. He told him that along with all the money and gold and everything, take also few people for my king's court, basically, to work in the king's court. And he said that gather some men who are kind of healthy, who are smart, intelligent, and who looks attractive. because they'll be working at the king's palace, right? So they need to look good. So the chief of staff found four, young, good-looking Hebrew men. So basically, I don't remember the other three names, but it was Daniel and his three friends, how it is popularized in the history book. So Daniel and his three friends was taken into the king's palace. Yeah, so what has happened that they have been told to eat food from the king's royal kitchen, because they were serving the king, and as the king instructed the chief of staff that they should look good, right? So they were asked to eat meat and wine. So that was the major food in the king's kitchen. Okay, but because of the beliefs or the religion and belief which the Hebrew mans had, they denied to eat that food because it was meat which was forbidden by the god. They're not supposed to eat meat. So he denied that, and the chief of staff was kind of worried, because he thought if they don't eat those royal food which contains meat and wine, they will become weak and they will not look good, and the king will be angry on him. Okay, but he told that that it can be still done, but maybe for a short period of time. So maybe for a period of 10 days, that they can have whatever they want to eat. And if after 10 days they are not looking as healthy as they are right now, they will be put into the diet, whichever the king's kitchen will be prepared, the royal kitchen. Okay. So Daniel told the chef who was in charge that they would like to eat vegetables, okay, and water. Okay, so no wine, only water, no meat, only vegetables. And they agreed, because they said that, okay, they'll do it only for 10 days. And after 10 days, these four Hebrew men were looking, even healthier compared to all the other men who was working in the king's court and having meat and wine as their main food. Okay. So this is probably the first documented clinical study which we can get in the history books, and it was like a kind of it was not a controlled study, but it was a first documented observational study, I can say, right? So this is the first story, and very fascinating one, because it comes from the history book, from the Bible, and this is kind of the first story which we can relate to for the evolution of clinical trials. I can quickly touch base upon one more story of which where the famous physician James Lind was involved. It was in the late 17th century, and this was for the disease called scurvy. So a lot of you might be knowing scurvy is a disease which happens because of lack of vitamin C. So in those days, the army, basically the navy, there was a lot of sailors in the navy who used to go for long voyages. They used to maybe protect the borders, the sea borders, or they used to go for wars, the sea wars, the navy wars, and scurvy was a very common disease that point of time, and there was no cure available. And almost like if the Royal Navy goes for a kind of long voyage, almost around close to 78%, that's what I can read, that used to die because of scurvy. Okay, and it was a huge loss to the naval base, because people used to die and they had no treatment available. So the usual symptoms, though, sorry, I have put a picture of a pirate, but there's a reason for it, because this guy seems to be having scurvy, because he shows a classical symptom. So usually scurvy starts with lethargy. That's the first sign and symptom which is observed. They feel general weakness in the body, and they have hemorrhage on the skin. They also have gingivitis, and the loss of tooth is also one of the common signs which is observed, and eventually they die. Okay. So that's the ultimate fate if someone gets a C scurvy and they are not treated. And as I say that way back that point of time in the 17th century or 18th century, there was no treatment available. So James Lind was a doctor, a physician who was working in the naval base, and he used to travel along with the sailors in the long voyages. So he thought that, let me try something, let me see something, giving some kind of food or treatment can help them. So what he did, he took 12 sailors who were showing symptoms of scurvy, okay, and he paired them into a group of 2. So if you see here, the 12 men, the participants were put into 6 different groups, and Dr. Lind gave different kind of treatments to them. He gave cedar to some, vitriol to some, vinegar, and the people who were very severely ill, they were given the pint of seawater every day. Okay, and one of the group also got oranges and lemon, 1 orange and 2 lemons. So at the end of his experiment, Dr. Lind found that the 2 men who were having oranges and lemons has recovered much faster compared to the other groups. Okay, and he documented that. So this was the first ever controlled clinical trial, because all the diet which these 12 sailors were receiving were standard. There was no change in that. The only thing which he did is he added some kind of treatment. Okay, so it was the first controlled and a documented study done by Dr. Lind. But what happened? He found it, and it was a kind of path-breaking innovation at that point of time. But for almost 50 years, he kept his research, unpublished, because at that point of time, oranges and lemons were very expensive, and the sailors were not fortunate enough to have that kind of money to have oranges and lemons in their daily diet, right? So he was hesitant to tell to the government, to the British government, basically, if I'm not wrong. And he was keeping quiet. Almost after 50 years, the study data which he published way back, the British Navy actually adopted that, and they understood the importance. They understood that the life of the sailors are much more important than money, because if they, lose 80% of their sailors by end of a voyage, they need to recruit more sailors, right? So that will even cost them more. So they added lemon into the diet, not oranges. Even oranges were even expensive. So they added lemon into the diet, and eventually that was later replaced into, I guess, lime. Lime was even cheaper than lemons. So that was what was done, and Dr. Lind is one amongst the first clinical trial, experimenter, or we can say investigator, who investigated some treatment options in a controlled manner, and he documented that. So this is the kind of path breaking, and I can say that the inception of the modern day clinical trial started with Dr. Lind's experiment in the early 18th century. And he is so respected. I don't know if you are aware, but there's an institute in the name of Dr. Lind. I don't know, it might be based at US, and they are one amongst the major institutes who offer clinical trial training, the different courses. So they are one amongst the first ones to start introducing the courses, and later on we have a lot of, I guess we also have a lot of institutes offering clinical trial training in India as well. Okay, so these were the 2 stories. There were many stories, and we don't have really time to go through all. So I'll shift, the focus to ethics now. We have been talking about the science. In the first 2 stories, it was all about the science, right? We are trying to explore something. But also, ethics, the way it is conducted, whether it's done in an ethical manner or not, that also holds a very important point in clinical trial. And the ethical oath, you might be aware about the ethical oath of Hippocrates, do no harm to the patient. So that's the oath which all doctors or the physicians they take when they become a doctor, right? That they should not do any harm. But this oath was not kept in many instances. When we look at the history, we found many instances where some of the physicians or doctors, they have not followed the oath. They did not look at the ethical part of doing these experiments. Maybe I will take you through a couple of examples here. Yeah. So what pictures you can see on the right side is basically of a doctor. This person, he is a doctor, the Nazi doctor. His name was Joseph Mengele, and all this you can see here. These are kind of war prisoners. So these were the pictures, or you can say the experiments which was done during the World War II, where the Nazis used to keep these prisoners and run experiments on them. And they were not really bothered whether they live or die, because they were prisoners. And the doctors who were there in the Nazis' concentration camps, I can say, they used to run those experiments. And Dr. Joseph, who was the mastermind behind all these Nazi experiments, so I can maybe give you one or two examples. They used to do a lot of cruel experiments. So one of the cruel one which I can think of is finding a treatment or how to improve hypothermia, right? So hypothermia is like your body temperature fell down, and how you're gonna improve that. So how they used to get that? They used to dip the patients, or rather I can say that is those prisoners, into ice water. They used to keep them into ice water for 3 hours, cause hypothermia by experiment, and then they used to give some treatment. Okay, a lot of these prisoners used to die during the experiment, because they used to also do something called freezing to death experiment. Like, they used to keep some of those prisoners on the ice blocks, the big ice pillar kind of blocks. They used to lie down the captives, the prisoners, and they used to watch how much time it takes for them to die, death by freezing, right? So that was the kind of experiment which used to be done in the Nazi concentration camps. Yeah, so this incident happened somewhere between 1943 and 1945. And 1946, this came out into the limelight. Okay? And there was a trial, the court trial, which was done against all these doctors who were doing all unethical experiments with the prisoners. And the court trial was done in a place called Nuremberg. And in Nuremberg, a lot of these doctors were given imprisonments. A lot of them were also given, sentenced to death, right? And probably Nuremberg Code was the first place where the court jotted down few of the guidelines. They said, like, you can't do an experiment where the patients or the volunteers will have a harm. Like, we talk about the risk benefit, right? So you need to look at the risk. You should not put the risk to some extent that they die. And there has to be some kind of ethical process of doing it. Like, you need to also do consent. You need to ask them whether they want to be part of this experiment or not. And they need to be informed about it, like what they are gonna do, how they are gonna do it. So Nuremberg Code was one amongst the first incidents in the history of clinical trial which shape up the current ethical guidelines. I'll quickly maybe talk about one more incident, which is the Tuskegee study, which was done in United States in between 1932 to 1972, where some group of doctors they did some studies on black people. You all know about the racism in US, and that was a peak time of racism in the early 90s. And these doctors were running studies on patients with syphilis disease. And what they used to do, they used to take those black people with syphilis, and they were deprived from the treatment because they wanted to see how long it takes for a person with syphilis to die. Okay, so what is the disease progression? So they never used to treat them. They used to observe the disease progression on them, and that was their experiment. This was an incident which was later, came into news. I don't know, somewhere in late 80s or early 90s. The people of America was becoming aware that this kind of experiments were done, and unfortunately, these experiments were done with the knowledge of the American government. It was not unknown to them. They were aware, but they did not take any action on that. And 1990s, when Bill Clinton was the president in US, he indeed apologized to the entire country population, specifically to the black community. I don't know, if you search, you will find his press release where he did it, and all the doctors who were part of that were punished. There was a lot of consequences happened through that, but this is also one of the incidences of unethical experiments in the history of clinical trial. Okay, so I guess we had a lot of stories already, and I will now take you through to the ethical guidelines, which kind of shape the current days ethical guidelines which we follow for all clinical trials. So we spoke about Nuremberg's doctor's trial, right, which give a shape to the Nuremberg Code. There were a lot of other instances. There were Helsinki Declaration, which was also a kind of major incidents or timeline. Belmont's report, then Siom's report, the ICH, the International Conference of Harmonization. So it's basically a group of the major countries like US, the European countries, and Japan was also part of that. So there were a few countries who are part of this ICH group. Later, India also became a part of that. But the way back 1997, India was not a part of that. But 1997, this ICH group formed something called GCP. That's called Good Clinical Practice. And it was in 1997. And that's the ethical framework which is used for conduct of all clinical trials in the current days. So in summary, we were been talking about the late phase, which is the drug development, in the drug development process, where we use or involve human volunteers or patients, and basically that aim to achieve a high quality therapeutic benefit for the end users, who are basically the patients. And needless to say, clinical trial is a very, very serious affair. It's one of the very regulated industries. I don't know, maybe the most regulated one if it is aviation, and maybe I can keep it in top 5 regulated industries so far, because we involve human life. This is one slide. I want to spend some time, but before that, I want to check if anyone has any questions from whatever I spoke till now. Okay, if no questions, we can proceed. So in this slide, we are going to talk about from idea to patient. So basically, the drug development the whole process takes almost around 10 to 15 years, from the conception of an idea, which we can say the discovery part, to the end of the development and the patient gets the drug in their hand. Okay, sorry, I'm using the term drug, but the clinical trial is not only about the drug development, it's also about development of medicinal devices. But to keep it simple, I'm going to use drug as a reference for clinical trial, but clinical trial, we also do clinical trial on different devices. Like if you think of a pacemaker, okay, or a glucose monitoring devices. Everything goes under clinical trial. A MRI machine, a CT scan goes through a clinical trial. Okay, or so yeah, but we'll keep it simple and we'll just refer drug. So it takes around 10 to 15 years, and 1 out of 10,000 ideas comes to the market. Okay, that's quite challenging. And you can understand, I guess, a lot of you were also involved into the preclinical part as a part of what we do usually in the pharmacy colleges. We do a lot of drug discovery part and the initial discovery, which also involves a lot of animal studies. So as you can see, like we are talking about an idea. When you have some idea, you synthesize a molecule or extract a molecule from maybe a plant base, or you create something on your lab. You do some kind of pre-project work on that molecule. Basically, it comes from a concept, right? You think what you are trying to achieve, and then you start building on that. You do a lot of research, and when I'm saying research, this research is all lab research. I'm still not into the other part. We have to formulate it before we start experimenting it further. So we do some kind of formulation, oral, solid, or whatever it may be, and then we do some preclinical tests. And obviously, the preclinical tests does not involve human. We involve starting from cell line. We involve rodents or primates. As you know, there's a process for that clinical preclinical studies. There's a level how we do different toxicity studies and other things. So that is being done when you find your the molecule is safe enough and showing some efficacy as well, right? We move the molecule to a clinical trial. But again, I will just pause it here that this movement is very, very critical, because we need to have sufficient data to support that now our molecule is ready to move into a clinical trial. Okay? We can't just move it. There's a regulation which will ask to produce all the lab data which was gathered till the date, and that helps us to move into a clinical phase. So the clinical phase, broadly, when we say it's phase 1, 2, and 3, but there's also something called phase 0 before phase 1, and there's something called phase 4, which is done after phase 3. Phase 0 is basically, we call it microdosing studies. Right? When we dose a very, very small quantity of the drug, which is sub-therapeutic level of drug. We know that this amount will not give any efficacy, right? But we choose a small amount of the drug and we give it to healthy volunteers. At this phase, we don't involve patients because we are just going to study, the first reaction or first introduction to a human, that what happens. So we take a very small group of healthy volunteers who were given a microdosing of this drug, and they were observed if they get any kind of reaction. Okay, and as I said, it's a microdosing, so most likely they don't get any reactions. But if they get it, that means the drug is now causing some problem to humans, which was not anticipated in the preclinical study, right? And then they usually stop it, go back and try to modify the drug, and then they can come back to phase 0. And in phase 0, we also do a lot of PK/PD analysis, the pharmacokinetic, pharmacodynamic analysis to see how the molecule getting break down into the body, how the ADME is happening of the molecule. So that's done there. And as I said, they take a very small group, as small as maybe 10 volunteers. So once it's found safe, it moves to the phase 1. So phase 1 is the, it's not the first human dose, but classically, if I consider phase 1 is the first trial case, then it's yes. But most of the cases, we start with the phase 0. We again take healthy volunteers because we don't want to take the patients at this point of time because we are not sure about the safety and also the efficacy of our drug. So we take around 50 to 100 volunteers, healthy volunteers, and we dose them. Now here at this point of time, we will not do a microdosing. We'll do a kind of dosing which will have some therapeutic benefits. But at this point of time, we don't experiment with a lot of different dose strengths. We just give one type of dose which considered to be a therapeutic dose, and then we observe for any kind of side effects. Again, that PKPD is done here, and the safety part, all the different side effects which can be observed in this part are documented. So once we are done and we don't see any severe kind of side effects, the side effects, if it's minor, transient, that you get a rash and that goes away within few hours or in a day with some symptomatic treatment. So those are not major side effects. So those are documented definitely, but if it's a major one, we stop the drug trial at that point of time. But if it passes, it moves to phase 2, where it's a first efficacy dose treatment, right? Efficacy, obviously, it means that to check whether the drug is being effective against the disease or the illness which we are targeting. So we take patients at this point of time. We take around 100 to 1,000 patients. It varies from the type of trial, obviously. And we give them the doses. We also at phase 2, we try to experiment with the different doses. Like, for example, if at phase 1, we tried 10 mg of the dose, we will also try to see 5 mg and maybe 20 mg and try to see if there's a dose response, like if we increase the dose, whether that improves the efficacy, whether that also worsens the side effects or not. So we try to compare at this point of time to try to identify which dose is the optimal dose, which gives less side effect and the acceptable level of efficacy, right? Perfect. So then we move to phase 3, which is a very large clinical trial. I can say that phase 3 trials are the longest and the largest trials which are conducted in a clinical development phase, where we have around 10,000 patients. I said up to, it can even have few hundreds, right? And it's a confirmatory trial. So just remember one thing here is, like, a drug, when it moves from phase 2 to phase 3, it has already cleared the concerns about safety. So when a drug moves to phase 3, it is already accepted that the drug is safe on human, okay? And it also shows efficacy. At phase 3, what we do, we take a larger sample size. I'm using the term because we use the term for statistical analysis, that the sample size, which is the number of patients, to give a statistical significance. And we take a huge number of patients. We give this drug. Sometimes you also use comparators, like suppose I'm developing a drug for a cancer. For some of the patient or a group of the patient will receive an existing treatment, which is already marketed, and some of the patients will receive the clinical trial drug, the drug which is under the trial, right? And then we'll do a kind of comparison. But remember one thing, the drug is already safe, right? Which is proven in phase 2. And I guess you might have already observed that a lot of the vaccines which were approved in India, like Covaxin and Covishield, was approved before a phase 3 trial was completed. The drugs where the vaccines had started phase 3, but it was approved for emergency use because it was already known to be safe and it was showing efficacy. So they didn't want it to wait for phase 3 trial to get over because the pandemic situation was going out of control. Okay, so this is what we do phase 3, and after that we still continue. We do phase 4, which is done usually after marketing the drug. I guess we have it in this flow as well. Okay, so once the clinical trial phase 3 is completed, we have the data from all the different phases. We have all the safety data. We have all the efficacy data on human trial. We also already have the animal study, the lab study data. So all these data are put together and given to the health authority, who does this product approval. Okay. So once your product is approved, it's registered to start putting into the market. Right? And we do something called pre-launch, preparing for launch, which usually the marketing team does in a pharma company, and the drug reaches to the market. And once it reaches to the market, the companies are also supposed to do a long-term phase 4 study. Because if you see, the phase of these trials are usually months to years, but also the regulators, the health authorities, wants to know what is the long-term effect if we give this drug for a prolonged period, maybe few years. Will that cause any kind of impact? Right. So we do a large or long-term phase 4 studies. In India, it's mandatory. Whenever a company puts any new product for registration, when the regulator or the health authority approves it, they also say that now you have to start a phase 4 trial. Fine, I'll pause again to check if there's any question before I move to the next part.
Sir, question from Sunita Sampati. That.
Yes, sorry, your voice is breaking.
Yes, sir, there is a question from Sunita Sampati and Neelam Dutt.
Okay, yeah, I can maybe take that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry, I can't see the questions. If you can read out for me.
Yes, sir, I am transferring that to you. From Sunita Sampati, can you tell us on how do you decide the first human dose for the clinical trials?
Okay. Yeah, so basically the first dose of human trial is based upon definitely the animal studies what we have conducted. And you know that when we do an animal study, we also have a conversion based upon the body mass of the animal. And I'm not really sure because I have not done clinical studies to that extent. But there's a conversion that when you dose to animals and even to the primates to a later phase of preclinical studies, there's a conversion factor which is used to identify what can be the therapeutic dose for a human. Okay, so that is being taken care and considered to identify the dose. But as I said, we don't take that dose for the microdosing study in human. We even sometimes take 10% of the recommended therapeutic dose, which comes from the preclinical studies. And then we start with a subtherapeutic dose at phase 0. But just to keep it short, we have a conversion from animal studies to convert the dose to a human participant. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Second question also from Sunita Sampati. Phase 0 clinical trials are included or considered for all drugs or for specific drugs?
It was not a very old trend. It was not used to done earlier, but now most of the pharma companies, they prefer to do phase 0. And as I said, it's a very small study taking 10 volunteers. It's very quick to do, and it's kind of, there's no regulatory mandate that a clinical trial should have phase 0, because the regulators look for phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 data. They don't ask for it, but it's a choice of the pharma company to do a phase 0. But I can tell you that we can see the trend going up, and most pharma companies doing a phase 0 just to be, doubly sure that the molecule does not cause any unexpected side effects to human when they are being dosed at the first time. So it's just a kind of way of avoiding a larger risk of giving to a larger group. They just give it to a small group with a subtherapeutic or microdose just to check if there's any adverse event. So yes, it's being now conducted, but it's not a regulatory mandate.
Okay.
Yep.
Sir, other one from Neelam Dutt. Is there a requirement of clinical trials for repurposed drug and dosage form?
Yes. So if there's a change in the dosage form, it is also considered to be a new drug as per the clinical trial definitions. So that needs to be done, because we change the dosage form, it might have changed the efficacy or the way it gets metabolized in the body. So it needs to go through a trial.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. No, sir.
Okay, fine then.
Thank you, sir.
I can move to the next part. Can you just let me know how we are doing with the time part? How much time do I have left?
Sir, 15 minutes, sir.
Perfect. Okay, so fine. Maybe I can go a little quick on this part. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
to start with this, like I just wanted to give you an overview about in India how the regulatory body works. So it's just a very broad level. If you see here that we have the Ministry of Health, and under Ministry of Health we have a group called CDSCO, Central Drugs Standards Control Organization, and under CDSCO is called the Drug Control General of India. So DCGI is the body who reviews the clinical trial and approves the clinical trial. Okay. When I say approval, they sometimes reject as well, right? So all drug trials are not always approved, and DCGI is also the same body who approves a drug for marketing. So they are basically overseeing the development part and also the marketing part, like commercializing a molecule. So we need to also submit to DCGI if we want to market our product after clinical trial. Okay, this is a kind of data analysis which I have taken, and it was done by BMR group. So that's a market analysis group which has interestingly done some kind of analysis to show how the clinical trial market is growing. Globally, it's growing at a pace of 5.5. That's the annual growth rate, which is growing and expected to even grow in the same pace for the next coming many years. If you only look at India, India definitely still compared to a global clinical trial market, we are a very small player till now. It was even smaller a decade back. We have grown to a great level, but we still are kind of a small player compared to if you compare with US or other big countries. But we are expected to reach to a size of around 3.15 billion USD by 2025. So we are doing really good, and it's growing even in a faster pace compared to the overall global CAGR. If you see, the global CAGR is 5.55 compared to India, which is 8.7. So that's very promising, and it's growing. We will come to the points why it's growing in that pace in India. Before that, I want to show this index. It's a little bit old. I guess the data was done by one of the market analysis company. If I'm not wrong, it was done by McKinsey a few years ago, and that showed India is the second most preferred destination for clinical trial. So the index numbers, whichever comes here, shows the preference, the attractiveness. I'm not considering US here because US is the oldest and the largest clinical trial market. There are various reasons for US to be the most attractive. Sorry, in this index you don't see it, but we also look at the commercialization part. So US is a lucrative place for marketing new drugs, launching new drugs, but that also drives clinical trial to some extent, definitely. But if you just see overall, you can see India is the second most preferred country apart from US, if you observe, and definitely one amongst the big player in APAC region, Asia Pacific. And why it's so, right? I've taken these slides from one of the very old presentations done by our DCGI, the Drug Control General of India, in the way back, maybe a decade back. But don't worry, I've also updated the data. So he used this framework, and he was basically presenting in an investors forum where there were a lot of MNCs were present, MNC pharma companies, and he was showing why India is a great place where all the companies can look for developing their drug. Okay, so I have updated some of the data here because the data were old. That point, if I consider the time change. So I'll just quickly touch upon that. So first is that investigators. So investigators are basically the doctors or the medical professionals who conduct clinical trial. And in Indian setup, or you can say in the majority of setup, the clinical trials are done in a hospital or in a doctor's clinic. Okay, so we need doctors. So they are the investigators. So We have a large number of specialists with different therapy systems. The medical training is done in India in English, right? So that's something which is very, very important, the language. So over like 6 lakh English-speaking physicians which are available in India. And the postgraduate training are also in line with Europe or US guidelines, the therapy guidelines. Usually whenever the Indian Medical Association adopts a guideline, sorry, they look for the guidelines which are there in EMEA, European region, or US. Okay. We also have a large number of ICH-GCP compliant investigator sites in India. Okay, I have already told ICH-GCP is like International Conference on Harmonization, who gave birth to good clinical practice. So there are a lot of investigator sites which are compliant; they are following it. We have a large patient population. It's needless to say that India has 17% of the world population, right? And it's growing, and it will become maybe 20% in coming 5 years. So 1/5 of the world population. So it's a diverse population which has a variety of genetic mixes in India, and the patient pool is high, and it's raising. India is one amongst the countries in the world which has the largest disease burden, unfortunately, but that's the truth. We have seen increasing trend in all kind of disease areas, like the metabolic diseases, the diabetes. We have seen in oncology, we have seen in serious neuro. There are lifestyle diseases like obesity and all. This is all increasing in India, right? So we have a huge patient population. Also, to add one more point is like we are not covered through a kind of general public insurance where we get treatment free of cost. I know there are some government policies which are emerging, but still they are not into that level of European and US. Definitely, that where the patient gets diagnosed and all the treatment cost is covered under their social security. So that's another reason that the patients might be more encouraged to part of a clinical trial where they get the treatment free of cost. The clinical trial infrastructure, we have a lot of medical colleges, and it's again growing. We have a lot of beds available, the hospital beds, and also due to COVID, the number of beds are also increasing. The data till maybe last year I checked, it was around 65,000 beds in private hospitals. 65,000, sorry, it's number of hospitals, and around 1.9 million hospital beds. And the best part is that 75% of those are in urban areas, where usually most of the clinical trials are conducted. We don't go to rural areas much because of logistical challenges in rural areas. This is one more very interesting fact, ethics committee. So just remember, like even for maybe the preclinical studies, animal studies, we have ethical committees where we submit the research proposal, they review, and then they give their opinion, either reject or approve, that whether this study can be conducted. For human trials, also we have ethical committees. And when I say registered, there's a new regulation which was kind of imposed some 3-4 years back, that all these ethics committees has to be registered under DCGI. So as on date, when I checked maybe a couple of weeks back, it was around 1,259, which is quite high. And this is across all the countries. It's spread across all the different states and cities. We have a large pool of scientists, engineering graduates, sorry, I did not mention pharma, but there's a huge pool of pharmacy students. Obviously, I don't know how many colleges, but somewhere I read that we have around 6,000 plus pharma colleges in India right now. I might be wrong, but obviously that accounts for the number of students who are passing out every year. They are also one amongst the potential resources who can be part of clinical trial. Okay, we have world-class medical facilities. We have a lot of good labs in India, and interesting part and the important part is that most of our workers in India are tech-savvy. We have a good IT support in India. We have 5G internet. Not all countries have 5G till now. So that's something which the technology part India is quite developed. We have mobiles even to the poorest people. Not poorest, but maybe even people who are poor still have a mobile phone. We have good connectivity. We have good air and surface transport, like from country to across countries. We have all major cities have international flights. This is also very important because when we conduct a global clinical trial, sometimes the human samples, basically the blood or the tissue samples, are being sent outside India for analysis purpose. Okay? We call them central laboratories. Okay? We're not going too deep into that, but that's something which is done, and for that matter, connectivity is important. In conclusion, if I have to say, patient pool, India is high. Patient recruitment rate. So this is something which is also very important. The recruitment rate is that how fast a country enrolls patient into a clinical trial. Because all clinical trials will have a defined recruitment period, and the speed of enrollment is also very important. The speed, as I said, it's fast. The cost-wise, India comes under, I don't know, it should not be the least expensive. India is somewhere, might be here. It was least maybe when Dr. Sumani and DCJ presented the slides, but I guess the cost has increased substantially over the period, and we might be somewhere here now. The facilities and investigator pool, yeah, we still have a high pool. The industry experience is definitely growing for India. Like, I have been part of clinical trials 12 years. My first boss was even started his career 10 years before me. So basically, I can assume that the overall modern day clinical trial might have started around 2 to 3 decades back in India, majorly. So we have gained a lot of experience in the last 2 decades. The regulatory environment has improved a lot. So I can tell you, like, the DCGI has a lot of good policies, and it's trying to match up with the speed of review at par with the US. So US has US FDA, Food Drug Administration. They have a timeline of 30 days of reviewing and approving or rejecting a clinical trial request or say research proposal. In India, we have around 60 days timeline, which is very, very good. Consider if I have to compare with China, they might take even 1 year, okay, for that matter. So it's very good, and it's improving. Quality of data, it's good because we have a lot of trained and experienced doctors and the staffs who are being trialed here. Okay, so I also wanted to show you that whatever I'm saying that India is a lucrative place, it's an attractive place, whether it's true or not. So I pulled some real data from the CDSCO portal. It's a public portal. Even you can also log in to CDSCO portal. You can go to the clinical trial section and you can find out. So what I've seen, taken a data of last 5 years. These are the number of global clinical trials up to year after year. You see there's an upward trend, and till last year we have an approval of 270 new clinical trials, and these are all global clinical trials. We have not considered the local India studies. Okay, and just to give you a perspective that if we consider that COVID hit us in 2020 March, till this March 2021, we have almost around 198 clinical trials approved. So, in spite of COVID, the Indian clinical trial industry is moving at a fast pace. And yeah, obviously, out of that 198 trials, I guess majority of the trial will be to find out a cure for COVID, either a drug or a vaccine study. Moving quickly, the regulations in India, just to broadly touch upon, we have a law which maybe you all will be aware, the Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1940 and the Rules 1945, which is a very, very old law, which is still applicable, and the clinical trial comes under that. There was recent developments into that. I'll come into the next slides. But that's the law which governs the clinical trial. We have regulation, which was again released by CDSCO office, which is called Schedule Y for clinical trials. We have few guidelines. For Indian scenario, we follow ICMR guidelines and we follow GCP guidelines. So When I say GCP, we follow predominantly the ICH GCP. We also have an Indian adaptation, which is not very different from the global or the ICH GCP. So I can just say that ICH GCP still holds the most importance of clinical trial regulations across the globe. All the clinical trials done across the globe in any countries follows ICH GCP guidelines, and we also call it the Bible of clinical trials. So that's the main regulation. This is what ICH GCP talks about in a broad. Sorry, we don't have much time, so I will not go through in detail. But in nutshell, sorry, I guess I have one more slide here. In nutshell, so in nutshell, ICH GCP talks about accuracy of the clinical trial data and the credibility, basically credibility in the sense of the reliability of the data. And at the same time, we also look into the ethical part, like the well-being, safety, and rights of the participants. Who can be patient, who can be volunteers, but it basically covers that. It's not a very extensive book, but I feel this is the most important and the basis of all our clinical trials. So it's a very important reference. I've listed down all the references here. If you are interested, you can further go. You can search in Google. All these are publicly available. The ICH GCP, which was first available in '97 and then last amended in 2016. We are having one more amendment coming, maybe somewhere by end of this year, that will be coming in. We have this Drugs Cosmetics Act, which was last amended in 2016. We have Schedule Y, so under that there are multiple forms which governs the clinical trial in the country. The ICMR guideline, the last update was in 2017, and as I said, the Indian GCP, which is not very different from the ICH GCP, but we also have an adaptation, which was of 2001. I guess this is the last, segment of my presentation. I hope I still have another 5 minutes, right? You can confirm.
Yes, sir. You can take 5 minutes.
Okay, so basically now, we have been talking that India is a great place, provides great opportunity for paramedics, pharmaceutical and science graduates in India. I just tried to give some perspective from my own knowledge. The first thing is educational qualification. So the industry is very, very open. They just say you need to be a science graduate. Okay? You need to know the science because what we do is related to science. So they need to have an understanding. So a life science graduate is okay to get into the industry. We have some kind of, even I can say, I don't know, I should not use the term preference, but yeah, we do have some preference that towards pharmacy students, which is really good for the group here. Medical doctors and paramedics, so they are the preferred ones, but again, needless to say, it's open for the entire life science graduates. If someone wants to get into a clinical trial industry, it is not mandatory, but recommended if they get an opportunity to have some internship into clinical trial industry. It can be, even getting an internship into an institute, who's a clinical trial institute, or it can be a hospital who's running a clinical trial, like how even we used to do some kind of hospital pharmacy kind of internship. That gives a great degree of understanding about how clinical trial happens, and those adds a lot of advantage when a candidate comes for an interview. If that is not feasible for someone to have a training, they can still gather knowledge, and I would recommend, these are the kind of references. I will say these are not very extensive. It does not take a lot of time to go through, but a student can go through, most importantly, first with ICH GCP guideline, and then they can keep reading other materials, read about the different phases, the drug development, the Indian regulations and all. That definitely helps someone to, kickstart their career into clinical trials. These are some entry-level positions. We don't have time, so I'll not go into the details, but I have listed down here, and maybe when I share the slides with all of you, we can look into that. So these are purely the entry-level positions which the companies look for, with or without prior experiences. and these are categorized in different levels. So I will not go into the details, maybe some other day. And where the job opportunities are available. The job opportunities are predominantly comes from the contract research organizations, which are we call CROs. I've given some names. So the global CROs, which has a good presence in India as well, are Covance, Icon, IQVIA, Paraxel, PPP, PRA. We also have some regional or Indian CROs like Syngene, Lambda, Vida, Zero, Test. There are many. I could not put everything in one slide. And they're all the major pharmaceutical companies, whether it's an MNC or an Indian house, they conduct clinical trial because it's a requirement for the Indian Health Authority to have data from Indian patients, right? So you just name a company and you will find the company is doing a clinical trial in India. There are a lot of outsourcing organizations, predominantly these are IT companies, what we know, Accenture, Cognizant, Infosys, Wipro, TCS. They ventured out into a clinical trial segment, but predominantly they don't conduct a trial, but they provide service for a smaller piece, like maybe a data management or maybe safety management. So they provide a piece of service to the pharma companies or to the CROs, but they don't conduct trials as such. But there are opportunities for students to get into. We have a lot of hospitals, basically the what we call multi-specialty hospitals. Many of the multi-specialty hospitals runs clinical trials, so there's also opportunity to join there as a either data coordinator or as a study coordinator who works with the doctors on a clinical trial.
Excuse me, sir.
SMOs.
Sorry for the interruption.
No worries. So I'm already done with the slides.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, we are running quite short of time, so kindly conclude.
Yeah, so that's fine. I guess I had a patient story, but I'll skip that one. And if there's any one or two questions, I can take that before we conclude.
Yes, sir. There is a question from Sunita Sampati. What are your comment on the illegal clinical trials still going in India and in and around Andhra Pradesh and Telangana?
Okay, fine. So illegal trials has a long history. So I spoke about this Nazis experiment way back, right? So we still see some of the unethical trials in India, but I can tell you this is not something on the book. It's off the book. Definitely, the regulators are not aware. When they are being aware, they definitely ban those trials. We have a very strong regulations in India because of the mistrust which was observed. In 2013, there was a large commission which worked with Supreme Court, who formed the new guidelines. I don't have enough time to talk about that, but I can tell you that the regulations are becoming stronger day by day, and illegal trials are coming down. And trust that no one does an illegal trial by knowing. It might be some of the small companies which doesn't want to spend too much of money. They might be doing those kind of studies, but this is not a general practice with any of the known companies who does trial. And we have a strong regulation. And as I said, it's governed by the law. So if someone breaks it, they will get imprisoned. The company will be blacklisted. Their products will be thrown out of the market. So there are consequences for that, right? So there are strong, law behind regulating clinical trial industry. I'll not go into specifics what happens in AP, something happened in Bhopal. There are a lot of incidences which we see in newspapers, but these are coming down because the regulations are becoming stronger. Right? Any more questions?
No, sir.
If not,
thank you, sir. Yeah. No, sir.
So thank you so much for the patient listening, and I'll maybe share the slides later on for your future reference. And if you have any questions, if your team has my mail IDs, you can contact me later as well. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you, sir. It will definitely be a pleasure to listen you once more in our future events. Once again, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Our today's second speaker is Mr. AvdeshThassu. Mr. Thasu.
Yeah, I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible. So shall we start?
Yeah, so yeah,
Okay.
so I just take 2 minutes before my starting. I
Yes,
know
sir.
this institution through Mr. Harjeet Singh Hura, who happened to be my close friend and my classmate too. Okay, so it's a good opportunity I got to have connectivity with you all, the Colombian Institute, and the team members. So I mean to say, today I am connecting or connected with all the teaching staff of Colombian Institute. Hello,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Hello.
so I'm connected with all the teaching staff, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I will not give any kind of traditional slide presentation because I am going to talk on the regulatory, which is very
Sir,
wide and having the
sir,
very big spectrum.
sir, excuse me, sir. Sorry for
Yeah,
the interruption.
yeah.
Kindly give me 5 minutes for your introduction.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
No issue.
Mr. AvdeshThassu is presently working as HOD of Global Regulatory Affairs, EMAMI Limited. Sir has more than 26 years of experience in supervising all kind of FMCG, herbal, Ayurvedic, food supplement, nutraceuticals, pharma and APIs product. Sir has served as global regulatory and technical head in various blue chip companies posted in various countries like Asian, SAARC, Africa, etc. Sir was also member of various international regulatory bodies like US FDA, MHRA, WHO, GMP, HALAL, etc. and various national bodies like CTI, FICCI, etc. Sir has done his B Pharm and M Pharm from Sagar University and MBA in Marketing from NIMS, Tamil Nadu. With these words, may I request Sir to start with his deliberation? Sir, please.
Thank you, Prakriti, and the team who is going to listen me. So I already started in the beginning that institution which where Mr. Hura is there. So we are being to we have studied together. So I had a great respect not only to Hura but this institution who is doing fairly well. Okay, and conducting such kind of technical discussions, presentations, all these things. So today, what I, being a regulatory head, global regulatory head, since I'm involved with this profession more than 26 years, in scale up from pharma, specialized pharmaceutical to food supplement and nutraceutical. I'm just going to give you an idea what exactly is the regulation. I will not go in the traditional presentation with slides and all these things. Because this is very vast and very big plethora which cannot be concluded within an hour or within few slides. So I'll give you a basic information what exactly is a regulation and how come the regulation has been started in India in late 90s when we were growing and juggling with medicine. These term of regulation started and was taken care by R&D people or CQA people. It was not separate division. The regulatory never been the separate division. So people was not aware. Exactly today, if you guys, we all are finding trouble of vaccine. What is the issue of this vaccine we are not going to get right now? Can I ask to someone to know what actually is the hurdle to get this vaccine Covishield nowadays suddenly in India? Is there anyone who knows exactly the reason?
So there is a blood clotting problem, maybe.
No, 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 it's not like that. Identifier issue means which is going to be responsibility of a particular organization or any person or any scientist will hold it. You cannot take this product without his permission. So this comes under Patent and Proprietary Act. So what exactly has happened sooner, the third world, means the Europe and US have find it out that India is needing large amount of Covishield, where the basic raw material is going to come from US or the Europe. They have gone through with this proprietary act and said, we cannot able to give you such quantum of basic raw material. And when this situation has arisen, we got into trouble. Regulatory means the regulation of anything, whether it is a pharma, whether it is a food, any kind of things which is going to be get manufactured anywhere has to follow certain kind of regulation. Whether we sit, we breathe, we work, we study, we follow our own regulation. We have to study 2 hours, we have to do this thing, we have to do that thing. Same thing comes in medicines also. The regulation means the product which the company is going to emblem, this product is going to be used for cough and cold, whether that has been related or not, whether that effect or efficacy has been done by the regulated authority or by that particular company or not. So that is the regulation. If we are going to claim on, for the product like personal care, within 24 hours, it will give a whitening of your skin, or it will glow, it will shine, it will increase your moisturizing effect, or for 24 hours of moisturizing. How come such kind of claims are coming on the product? That has to be get properly checked. And who is going to check it? Earlier, it was CQA and R&D. They used to say, yes, we have done our checking, and we find that 25% and all these things have been, we have done it, and we got this kind of answer, and yes, product is approved, and please throw in the market. But nowadays, after 90s, when we entered in third world, a lot of competitions have been started, where in-depth evaluation of Indian product has been started, and a lot of Indian companies have come up. Their SWOT analysis, why exactly our product is not going to accepted in third world, whether it's the US, Europe, Africa, SAARC, or any other country. Why we are always been in not in the prime? Why we are always in third? Why we are not coming in the first? You can see, you guys must be knowing that in API, India is doing a tremendous job in entire of the world, whether it's a anti-cancer or any kind of, even the vaccine. We have done the remarkable job in vaccine. So this is the world now. But earlier, it was very tough time. People was not knowing exactly what we have to do. Why our product is not going to accept it? Why these questions are coming, and who is going to answer it? So regulation was not properly organized. The same things happening. We are largest manufacturer of oxygen, but due to regulation, we are unable to do the proper distribution networking with hospitals, private hospitals, government hospitals. And that's why this is the hiccup which you guys is seeing, you guys is hearing, you guys are noticing in newspaper and all these things. So this is the basic. I'm going to, say now your institution is giving a pharmacy degree. So whether this is going to be useful to you or not is another question. I can say yes, because pharma is the supreme science of drug. You can go for science, BSc, MSc, and all these things, but pharmacy is hold the manufacturing of pharmaceutical sciences, and they go in depth of drug, whether it is from the nature, whether it's from the mineral, whether it's from synthetic, whether it's from extraction, any other things. We study that thing. So it means we get properly evaluated ourselves, knowledge ourselves with this basic or with this important chapter of regulation, which is very much important of incarnation of any kind of molecule in the world, whether it's a pharma, non-pharma, food, our food, nutraceutical, or any kind of things which is going to be used for the humankind. So here I will definitely talk to all you guys, because you guys are involved in pharma. Now, how come you guys or your students will go in regulatory? So I will say in India, there are nearly 47 regulatory regulatory affairs colleges in India, which many of the these colleges are, have affirmed by our government authority of ICMR. There are a lot of courses, nearly 50 courses are running by all these institutions. D.Com candidate, he can go and take 2 years of job, 3 years of course. For M.Pharm candidate, he can go 6 months, 1 year, 18 months. So a lot of different kind of courses are run by different institutions, private and as well as approved by ICMR institution, which is our government authority. So it will be very helpful for the career point of view in pharma, whether domestic regulation or international regulation, because domestic regulation and international regulation, we have differences. Why? It's the same thing: developed country, underdeveloped country, developing country, and developed countries. So these things are there in international arena. That's why different kind of regulations are still going on, where the market is not organized, but somewhere market is very much organized. Like if I can say you example of Nepal, I can say you example of Bhutan, I can say you example of Bangladesh, or some country, Cambodia. Okay, so some of the countries are Southeast Asia, some of the countries of Africa, where such kind of developed regulation is not there. So they are dependent on the country, those who can provide them all these necessary goods, whether this is medicine, Ayurvedic, herbal, nutraceutical, even the food, as per their own requirement, as per the cost, means they can afford the cost, and as per their knowledge. We cannot give them an utmost superior they understand what kind of things the common people is going to be used. That is the basic difference of this categorization of developed, underdeveloped, and developed market, and going to be developed market. So that's why the regulations are still going on, and this is going on process. In India, if I will talk to our own country, India was not, good enough to serve this regulation in late 90s. We were not knowing, as I told you earlier, we was not knowing exactly how to handle this regulation, how to submit the product registration in developed country, what are the procedures, what is the CTD system, What is the system of product registration in the particular country? What is the system of pharma product registration? What is the system of Ayurvedic product registration, OTC, herbal, nutraceuticals, and foods? And now comes superfoods also. So we were not knowing exactly. Now, the things, a lot of regulation authorities are coming up in India. Global regulatory authorities are also come. Okay, a lot of CRA, the global, regulatory associate and clinical research coordinators are there. They are working in India. They are of several prominent institutions on globe. They are affiliated, and we can go. Any company can go and go for the clinical and development of that particular product. They have manufactured in their own. So earlier, we was having the R&D, we was having the QA, quality assurance, quality control department, but it was not advanced level, where we can do in-depth analysis, particular trial, clinical and preclinical trial, where we can find it out the product efficacy, and then the regulation will start. Then we can claim it, yes, our product will work and give the result with 24 hours. It is going to be used as a sustained release. It is not going to be used as a OTC. What is the reason? We can define it. We can defend it. And simultaneously, the important point is IPR. The protection of product. If molecule is new, originated from India, will be patent and proprietary. If already the molecule is available in entire world, is known to fraternity, but entry going to develop a new manufacturing without under patent, and that patent will be the that basically basics of IPR, Patent and Propriety Act. A lot of things comes. It's not only the molecule, it's the manufacturing process, it's the testing protocol, analysis protocol, analytical efficacy, technical efficacy. So anything which has been new and developed, and when the scientist will compare it and find, yes, this process is definitely give an edge to this particular product, will be accepted only under the patent. It's not like that you change certain things and it will come under patent. No. We have to do certain things where the product efficacy will get enhanced and it will be useful to the humankind. Then only it will come under the patent and propriety. Whether it is a formulation process, whether it's a refined process, whether it is a quality control or quality assurance, anything which has been done has to be get evaluated, and when the world will know, yes, and they will accept it. Yes, by doing this, the product efficacy is getting enhanced, will be accepted, and the product goes under patent and propriety. So I am touching basically an important figures, an important point of regulation, where people will know exactly what are the graphics, what are the points which comes under regulation. Except the legal action, except the legal, when we are going to be, under the legal things where international arbitrations has been happened over there, that part comes the legal team. Rest all the technical things come under regulation, which relates with the product, whether it is a pharma product, whether it is a non-pharma product, whether it is any kind of product which is related to So in such an important, you know, division of of the system of this, you know, entire globe, which is working in the current era. So everything, whatever the thing is there, whatever, whether it is a commercial, non-commercial, goods, any kind of things, it definitely related with certain regulations. There is a rules and regulation, and we have to abide with all these rules and regulations. We cannot change that because all these rules and regulation has been properly tested. And then only we put certain kind of claim, disclaimers, and anybody can raise the issues. Anybody can raise the voice. If you have put any kind of disclaimer on the product, everybody having a right to raise his finger and ask, how come such claim is there? And we have to satisfy him. Whether it is a ATL or BTL activity, means this advertising agency, which you have seen a lot of OTC products come on TV, a lot of you know, international magazines, which are medicinal magazines. You can see many things are popping up. The companies are you know, giving thrice of the particular product's usability, what are the uses, how come this product is very much important in the particular segment. All these things has to get verified from their Ministry of Health of that particular country, wherever your product is getting launched. So in current era, India is under pressure of WTO, World Trade Organization, which is having a certain system which everybody has to follow if he is going to, that particular country is going to accept the WTO system. That's why you might have seen it. A lot of news are coming. The India is telling WTO, give us some more time. Give us some more time. We'll accept all the WTO or you know, irregulation. The reason is that we are very big country, 140 billions people are there. We cannot upgrade our entire manufacturing facility up to top level. It's not possible. Certainly, it will require some time to get our manufacturing facility, whether it's a pharma, non-pharma, food, or any kind of things, to come up the standard of global. We require time. The government, a lot of non-government scheme with the government international bodies neck to neck and asking them to give us some more lease time so that we'll come up to certain level where we can move neck to neck with entire world. So I mean to say, I am just defining what is regulation and why this is very much important, and how come our student will have their career in this particular, you know, division. So I hope you guys must be listening what I mean to say. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you have any kind of queries, any kind of questions which you might have in your mind, so that you can, you know, you can give to your students, and any kind of plan, if your institution is going to get plan for this regulatory affair, education and all these things, you can ask me. I will try to, you know, to explain, and will try to help out also if you guys is having certain kind of plan or any other thing. So you are most welcome. Anyone can ask the question which is related with this particularly regulation. I will try to say more, you know, specific way, although the time is not, you know, time is getting short, but I will try to explain it to everyone if they have certain kind of queries. Do you have any kind of questions, please?
Neelam Dutt, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
Neelam Dutt, ma'am. You
Yes.
have queries?
Yeah.
Okay, sir. There is a query from Neelam Dutt. I'm transferring to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That is, for joining regulatory affairs in M.Pharm degree is sufficient, or there is a need of doing some diploma training course run by many institutions?
Yeah. Yes. See, M-Form fresher, I will say it is better. He will, if he is a fresher, he must go in R&D or QA and QC and get knowledge, and then he will try for the because regulation is a very in-depth analysis of the particular product or particular company, where a lot of documentations and the regulation laws must be known by the particular person. So there is a way out plan. Either he has to spend a couple of years in R&D, CQA, and then try to go in regulation, or else if you want to start from fresh after finishing M-Form, go some advanced courses of regulatory affairs. A lot of colleges, private and ICMR is giving 6 month, 1 year courses that will be very useful to know exactly how to tackle what are the rules and regulation, how come we uh, frame the documentation of product registration, what is the process of product registration in particular country when we are starting to go for the export, and all these things. So a basic knowledge will come, and then he can start his career in any company, whether it's a pharma or non-pharma or API or food or Ayurvedic or herbal or nutraceutical, anywhere he can. He can. I hope this will be clear to.
So there is a one
Yeah.
more queries from Neelam Dutt. Is there any opportunities after B Form from regulatory affairs for regulatory affairs?
Yeah, definitely. After BPharm also, one can go, but it will be better because it's a bachelor degree. He must go the advanced, degree for drug regulation or drug regulatory affairs from the college. So that he will have a good position in the later time if he's having advanced degree with him with BPharm, then his career will be far better. Otherwise, BPharm will not get much higher position in the later part of his career, because M-Pharm student he knows he goes drug evaluation and submitting the thesis. He knows the product evaluation. So there he get a lot of advanced knowledges, and then after having some year or 6 months or a couple of years of degree in drug regulatory affairs, it will definitely help him out to have a better position in the particular organization wherever he's focusing his career.
Hello,
Yes.
this is Harjit Thura from Raipur.
Hi, Arjit. How are you
How are
doing?
you?
I'm fine,
Fine,
dear.
fine,
Fine.
fine.
Doing
One
great
question
job.
I want to ask.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Anna, you are exporting various categories of drugs to the different part of globe,
Yeah.
right? Which area, which country you are finding easy to supply, and which country you are finding the regulations are very tough to supply and meeting the standards of those countries? Please tell.
See, now the era has changed, Harjit. Earlier, it was very easy to go for the export, even for the Nepal, where we have a it's the extended. We say the extended part of India, Nepal. Now, Nepal country has, for the Ayurvedic and herbal product, they are saying that your company manufacturing facility has to go as per WHO norms. And not only that, the manufacturing facility as well as the product which you are planning for the export to that particular country, means the Nepal, has to be COPP, the Certificate of Pharmaceutical Certification.
Okay.
So such an advanced level has come with these small country. Early it was not like that. We are having treaty with Bangladesh. We are having treaty with Nepal. Even we are having treaty with Southeast Asian country. But now the era has got changed. But still, as we asked the question, still SAARC, Southeast Asia, and some part of Africa is still easier for the export. But if planning for Europe, US, Australia, Germany, and other part of the world, it is going to get very tough as per the regulatory norms.
Right. Thank you.
So even
Thank you.
welcome. Even for food, even small food is going to get very tough. Means their evaluation, the regulation is same as a medicine. You have to submit the documentation of product efficacy, the calorie evaluation, the scoop. If you are going every scoop, how much calorie it contains, what is the minimum dose, what is the maximum dose, LD50, ED50, everything has to be summarized and put into the document. And after the approval only, we can able to export even the food or the food supplement.
Right.
Any other queries? Because it's a
No,
very
sir.
big, it is a very big, regulatory is cannot be comprised or get presented with a couple of slides, or it is an open era where open, in fact, subject where until unless you guys will not discuss deeply, will not get maximum out of it. I can give any presentation. These are the regulations. These are the regulatory body. That's all. But it is not going to suffice the purpose. I mean to say, which I have evaluated. As Harjeet has raised the question, it was very important, very good. People might have got some knowledge that who are the country where we can go for the export easily, and what are the tough situations. So it's a very important, good questions has been raised by the Harjeet.
One more
So
question.
yeah, please.
In herbal drugs, especially Chyawanprash and other herbal drugs, we find the difficulty in exporting drugs because of heavy metals. And those Chyawanprash which are easily acceptable in our country, but it is very difficult in exporting in various countries because especially of heavy metals. So what are the remedies we are making to supply or export those herbal products?
So there is a basically Europe or any other country, when we plan this Chyawanprash will not go as a Ayurvedic product, because Ayurvedic word is not going to be known by other part of the world except some SAARC countries. They know the Ayurveda system of Ayurveda. Even though all the herbal or natural drug origination has been started from the Ayurveda, which is the science will be known or will be originated by India. But it is very unfortunate we didn't throw the light for the system of the other part of the world, and now we are lacking it. It's our science where other part of the country they are working. The Chinese, they are working and taking our science and getting a lot of this. Come up to your point of Chyawanprash. Chyawanprash goes under food. And what are the herbs which are going to be used in that particular Chyawanprash formulation has to be get evaluated. Lot of herbs which have been restricted by European agency, we have to remove it. These herbs which are containing heavy metals, which are containing high content of microbes, has to be removed from that particular formulation. So this Chyawanprash will be there, the name will be there, but we have to change their formulation if we are going to export that product in Europe or other European country. Some of the countries, some SAARC country like Nepal, they are still accepting. But other than country, we have to evaluate our formulation as per their norms, as per their Ministry of Health, and we have to change that particular ingredient. And parallelly, we have to incorporate the same kind of ingredient which is having some same kind of effect. So the listing is there. The restricted herbs are there. There, every country is having the list. Basically, that list is not anything separate from other countries. The restricted medicine is given by the European agency, and everybody, 98% countries are following the same restrictions and the norms in entire globe.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Sir, actually, what my students are facing problem that whenever the students are saying after BPharm, whatever the syllabus they were reading, and whenever they were going for interview, the norms are being changed, and whatever the interviewer are asking, they're not able to get their answer. They're not aware with what the new updates of the regulatory market. The syllabus and the whatever the industries are concerned, industry is changing, but the syllabus is as it is for 4 to 5 years.
That's a very good question, Mr. Tapas. So
yes.
That's why your institution is doing such kind of activity. The institution is not going to get the current affairs, whether having the interaction with the industry people, or having, sending their students, or doing this technical lecture or the technical collaborations, so that people will get, or students will get, or teachers will get to know exactly where the industry is moving. Because every day, as new norms are coming, new subjects are coming. So your student has to, get to know exactly the industrial norms, and then only they can, come up with their prime of whatever they want to get achieved. Unless it is not going to be easy. The theoretical part is okay. Everybody will know what is pharmacokinetic, what is thermodynamic. But we are not going to ask you pharmacokinetic and thermodynamic. We are going to ask you how you are going to be useful in our team as a team member if we are going to take you. Whether it's the QA or QC or in sales or in marketing, wherever, or in regulation, anywhere. So that has to be, properly shaped up. The particular student has to shape up himself, and then only he can. We also know, industry people also know it very well, that he's anybody who is and he is having the knowledge. He gives going to be as a permanent in that particular, whether it's in QA or in QC field. So you are,
thank you, sir.
your institution.
So one more question. Question, sir.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Sir, whenever we want to suppose going for a startup, we are going to plan for any formulations. Then first we go for the regulatory market. Then we'll design our product, or first we will decide that what product we are going to prepare. Then after we go for the regulatory market.
No, there is a specific setup of any product is going to be launched. The first thing is the category. What is the category of your product? Whether it's a personal care, healthcare, food supplement, nutraceutical, or health supplement. What exactly is the product? When you have categorized the product, yes, it is food supplement, or it is pharmaceutical product, then what is that? What is the aim of your, which portion, which market, which segment you guys are planning to that particular product? In general terms, if I'll explain you, if any cough and cold product we are going to launch, definitely we'll compare it. What are the products which are available in the particular market? What are their sales? What is their SOP of that particular product? And then we compare it. And then we will plan whether we have to go the niche market, where we have to go compete with MNC product, or we have to compete with the niche market. So that is the plan. After that, every market and every assessment, then comes what is our formulation, what kind of claim we are going to frame on our product label. So that claim is very much important and has to be proved by your support of regulation. If product efficacy,
thank you, sir.
Yeah, product efficacy test has not been done, you cannot put any kind of label claim on the particular product. Because any authority will ask you, if you are going to put any claim, they will ask you, you have put any claim, what is the supporting document? Please show us their supporting document. Or if you are going to advertise, they will raise the questions. Yes, please. No.
Participants may ask question if they are willing to ask.
Please. Yes.
There's Harjit here.
Yeah, please. I can see.
If our students, they want to have career in this field, regulatory affairs, what future you see in next 10, 20 years in this particular field?
Great. I'll see great future because, Arjit, you know how the entire market and entire segment is getting changed. Right now, if we'll take an example of this, suddenly entire globe and entire India is got changed in this couple of products or in one category of vaccine. Crores and crores of rupees are going to get invested in this vaccine. But how come the vaccine is going to come in the market? With the clinical, preclinical, who is going to govern this clinical and preclinical until unless the regulation is not there? And who is going to show, or who is going to teach, or who is going to manage and maintain these kind of regulation? The regulatory body. And we require the regulation. So there is a lot of vacancy, if you can see, you can find a lot of vacancies suddenly are coming, even though the market is getting down, but suddenly the regulation and the regulatory bodies positions are coming up entire globe. So regulatory is in future, the regulatory is going to take in IPR also. The Industrial Proprietary Act is also going to come under the regulation. Even the arbitration has been already started by the regulatory. I have done a lot of our international arbitration, even though I was not having the degree of LLB. But the company was not having the person. So we have hired the local body who are having the LLB degree in the particular country, means CIS and Russia and in Europe also. But I have given the presentation. And now, lot of companies are there which are having the regulatory department, and their regulatory head is doing their LLB courses and maintain the IP and the legal system also. Very bright future. Very bright future. Even if you have spend some couple of years in R&D or in CQA or in QA, you can come that will be first preference by the regulatory person, because we know that person, he knows in and out about the product. He knows the technicalities of formulation, testing, protocol, GMP, CGMP, WHO, and all the norms, because he has gone through, and it will be well accepted by the regulatory person or the regulatory department. So I feel it is a great future for regulatory. And it is better that Harjit, you are this Columbia institution is doing a lot of such kind of virtual work, and this will definitely give an edge to your students, so that they will know exactly what is going on in industry, what exactly is the industry, where they are going to see their future. So I really thank you, and your entire team is they required, and they definitely have the thanks for this, doing all such kind of activity for their institution. Great job.
Thank you, and we are proud of you of this.
No, because now we all are working. We all are working from home. Suddenly a call came. I was having my work from home, and call came and name was there, so I immediately accepted, because I cannot deny Harji.
Thank you.
I cannot say no. Yeah, I cannot say no. Yeah, I cannot say no. So I immediately accepted. I thought it's okay. I'll take time and give this this bright picture of regulation. People still, many of the small industries and institution doesn't know exactly about the regulation, and it is very much important, very important. Whether it's a manufacturing in India, whether it's a exporting, and in coming era, the regulatory is going to play a very vital role. It is going to be not only administrative, but it will control the molecule of product molecule, whether it is a pharma or in non-pharma, in the coming era. Without regulation, company cannot put their product in the market, open market, anywhere. Even the India is going to, India has started to follow the WTO norms. Initially, import was very easy in India. It was just 5 points. That's all. Who is the manufacturer? What is the product efficacy? What is the product formulation? Any restrictions? Is they have done clinical, or they have not done any kind of clinical? If they have done, you just put that data, and government authorities will work on that, and they will give approval. Now, system has been changed. Every point is getting evaluated. The formulation, the percentage, the product efficacy, the sustainability of the product in dynamic, everything they are prepared. That's called the CTD system. India has also, follow their CTD system. It was not earlier. So things are getting changed, and regulatory, they are having very, very good future, very bright future. They want to come, but yes, one has to work very hard. This is very, very tough job, even though related with the formulation, even though product development, because one has to know the entire knowledge of the particular product, their regulation, the knowledge of the particular country wherever they are planning to export, the product registration, and the hiccups, how to resolve the hiccups also, because ministry will raise a lot of queries when you are going to do for the product registration or the approval. And there is a different kind of approval. Online approvals are there, product registrations are there, pharmaceutical registrations are different, herbal registrations are different, nutraceutical registrations are different, and foods registrations are different. So one has to know in-depth knowledge of all these things. Then only the company will accept that particular person who go deeply and give the support to that particular team or the particular organization. Things has to be resolved. And gradually, when he invested time, he get a lot of licensing and all these things.
Correct. Very true.
Hello. Hello. Mr. Avdesh
So many things.
Thassu. Yeah. Okay, sir.
Has come up with for this COVID-19, on TV and everywhere. This Ayush 64 product is, their formulation has been borrowed by EMAMI, and we have developed this product, and we have also done the product efficacy and got fantastic result in chikungunya. And we have named its name in EMAMI is Chirakin, because it's killing the chikungunya virus. And now Ayush has requested us to supply that their clinical and to find out its effect on COVID, and they find it's very good to enhance the efficiency. It will work, Chirakin, and that is the same product which is having the Ayush 64. So lot of Indian means government authorities are working neck to neck with industrial, developed industrial pharma or non-pharma company to get to know the clinical or preclinical, all these things, and they go for the doubly check, even though they have advanced level of ICMR or CITISCO. They go for these things, but still they work with the parallelly with the government authority, private pharmaceutical company, to know it, to get doubly sure whether the product efficacy is good or not. So these are the things which are happening nowadays, and it will go on. It will go on. So future of regulation or regulatory is going to be very bright in coming era. It's very important. So I just suggest and request your team member, they must go through, or they must plan a lot of seminars so that people will know what exactly is the industry and where the industry is moving, what are the prompt action industry is going to take, what are the WTO, what are the regulation, what are the QA, QC, manufacturing, marketing, sales, requirement of different company, whether they're pharma, API, health, food supplement, so that you guys will get to know, and your student will get to know what exactly, and how they can make their future in industry if they are having plan like that. So these are my few tips I just want to share with teachers, and through teachers it will go to our students.
Thank you so much. We'll need your cooperation in future also.
Definitely, anytime, Harjeet, and thanks a lot to our entire your team. They are doing fairly well, and I just I just want to say that please take care about this COVID situation is going on, and plan accordingly. It's a good you guys are planning very well, and do such kind of planning in your future also, so that your student and your institution will get name, frame, and definitely your student will have a good future in industry and other academic, wherever they will plan. So thanks a lot to all your team member. Thank you, Harjeet. Love you. Yeah, and God bless your entire team. Love you, dear. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It will definitely be a pleasure to Yes,
Yes.
sir. Thank you. It will definitely be a pleasure to listen you once more in our future event. Once again, thank you, sir.
So kind of you. So kind of you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Bye. Our next speaker is Anurag Kastwar, and the session will start at sharp 1:30 p.m. Thank you.